Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Recently I played a paper tournament and got beaten by somebody playing a Living Wish, Dark Depths, Witherbloom Apprentice combo deck. So I did the correct thing and asked them politely for the deck list, and she obliged, and here we are. I've had a donor who has given me a donation deck list to play this one, so let's get into it. So we have two combos here. So Witherbloom Apprentice is a 2-2. Whenever you cast or copy an instant sorcery spell, you drain life for 1 from each opponent. Chain of Smog, we target ourselves and we get to copy it as many times as we like, targeting ourselves. Each copy will drain them out. That's an infinite combo, we win the game. The other combo is Dark Depths, which you've seen many times before on this channel. So this has 10 counters on it. When it has no counters, we get a 20/20 indestructible flyer. Hexmage removes those counters. Thespian stage becomes a copy with no counters. So that's our win condition. We can also do a little bit of beatdown with like Apprentice, Reclaimer, Ramunap Excavator. That's generally not what we're about. So the way that we're kind of marrying these sort of two halves of the deck together is these 4 Living Wishes. This is not a card that I'm particularly fond of, but in this deck we have a lot of utility with it. So I think it's actually got a decent amount of merit and I want to see how it goes. So this can fetch up either a Witherbloom Apprentice, a Hexmage, or a Dark Depths, as well as a bunch of other tools that we'll get to in a minute. So we have a lot of flexibility with what we can do on this one. We've got a bunch of interaction, which I like here. We're a sort of slower deck. We're not actually trying to turbo anyone out. We're just trying to sort of grind away a little bit with some combo finishes. So we've got some Hand Disruption. We've got some creature removal and fatal pushes and Abrupt Decay. We've got Elvish Reclaimer and Crop Rotation as our ways of finding some silver bullets here. So Wasteland, Yavimaya, Bojuka Bog, Ghost Quarter. We can also just get some Nurturing Peatland and start drawing extra cards because we've got the Life from Loams that we can find. And these can give us a nice source of card advantage too. We've got Exploration. We're trying to power things out a little bit quicker. So we can do like a turn 2 Merit Lage. That's not really what we're about, but it's definitely a thing we have access to. And we've got Ramunap Excavator as kind of like a third Life from the Loam. We've got 2 Legolas Quick Reflexes because this allows us to protect our 20/20 and protect our Witherbloom Apprentice. So either of our combo kills, this kind of has some synergy. Because this deck is a little bit slower, like we're not trying to turbo out with a bunch of fast mana, we're trying to just grind a little bit of value and then get there that way. Sort of cross all the problems off the list and then win with our combo that way. It means we're going to have the time to do Legolas' Quick Reflexes. That's the theory at least. So sideboard-wise, the cards we're actually sideboarding in are some Leyline of the Voids, because Graveyard Hate is good, a little bit of removal in Abrupt Decay and Shoulder's Edict. We also have a Force of Vigor that we can board in. Now the rest of it is pretty much just our wish board. So you got Caracas, Dark Depths, Boseiju, Blast Zone, the Witherbloom Apprentice, a Sylvan Safekeeper, which is another way we can protect our combos, the Ramunap Excavator, and the Vampire Hexmage. So we've got like our combo pieces here, but then we've also got like a little bit of extra utility here and there. As you know, I'm a big fan of Boseiju, so it's nice to see it in there. All right, that's pretty much the deck list and what we're aiming to do. So without further ado, remember to like and subscribe, and let's start jamming. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? So this is our opening hand. I don't think this one's keepable. We have no green mana to work with here. So I think we're just going to send this one back. Alright, this hand allows us to combo on turn 3 if that's what we're about. We've also got some other tools. So we can keep this. Do we want to have this Living Wish available? Or I think I'd rather just have a Life from Loam to go again. Or we could just get rid of one of these Thespian stages. That's probably the best bet here. Get to keep all of our tools here. This way, if we kind of fail with our going off with our combo, we can just rebuy and go again. Delver's Secret. So the amount of time that we may have to go again might be reduced because our opponent's going to be quite aggressive in how they play this game. So I think we're going to start off with the Thoughtseize here. Alright, so what have we got? A Brazen Borrower is obviously problematic for this combo we're trying to do. The counterbalance is very annoying. Ponder helps them make their second land drop, but I don't think that's a useful way to try and undercut our opponent. So I think it's either the Borrower or the counterbalance. What I think we're most likely to be able to beat. I think we can beat one Brazen Borrower, but counterbalance could just lock us out of this game in an unpleasant fashion. So we're going to take this counterbalance, because they can just float 2s and we never get to do our Life from the Loam. We do know they don't have a counter spell in hand right now, and they didn't flip the Delver, so they probably still don't have one. Right, there's the Ponder. This can obviously find them one, if that's what they're looking for. They shuffle their library, so they're probably looking for land number 2. Alright. So we have perfect information on our opponent's hand, but they've got this bauble they can crack. They didn't crack it. They're going to use this to flip their Delver, or have more chances of flipping their Delver. Chain of Smog, that is interesting. That was very interesting. Alright. So we can Living Wish for the Witherbloom Apprentice here. It's either that, or we can go and get the Sylvan Safekeeper, run that out, and have protection for our Marit Lage. Although we're going to be losing almost all of our lands when we do that anyway. So I think I prefer the Witherbloom Apprentice here. This is going to kind of force our opponent to keep 2 mana open this turn, which means we can just deploy our Dark Depths cover and they're kind of going to have to worry about that. But if we just play this game chicken, eventually our opponent will kill us because they've got the threat on board right now. So we're going to have to deal with that at some point. But we can deploy the Witherbloom Apprentice. Well, they do have this Unholy Heat, so we do need to decide what we're doing about this. A Chain of Smog. Interesting. We could just fire this Chain of Smog off at our opponent and see what they discard here. I don't hate that, to be honest. That was an interesting choice. Because will they want to send it back? Because if they do, then we are fine here. So let's do this. If they send it back at us, we can send it back at them. And then we'll just be playing with Life from the Loam available. Right, they discarded Unholy Heat and Dragon's Rage Channeler. They have 2 cards left in hand. Do you want to send it back? They do want to send it back. Alright, that's pretty exciting. Right, we'll get rid of Life from the Loam and this Chain of Smog, I believe. Yes, I would like to get our opponent with it, get those last cards out of their hand. If they fire this back at us, we'll just crack off our crop rotation, getting rid of our Urborg here. Right, we'll send it back. It's going to get Dark Depths here. Right, so we're going to lose our Witherbloom Apprentice, but our opponent's Hellbent. We've got a 2020 ready to go. For our opponent top decks, yeah, there we go. Excellent. Yeah, really liked how we played that one. We had the combo rolled up, but we decided to go for a different combo. Love it. Okay, so this is a matchup where we do want the removal spells. Our opponent is an aggro deck. We want to mess with that. We haven't seen enough of our opponent's deck to know if we want this Forcer Figure. They might be the build that has Blood Moon out of the sideboard as an option. However, we don't necessarily need to worry about this if we're just going to be... You know, we've got quite a lot of basics to work with, and we can always just get a Boseiju going. I think this is fine. We don't have as many fetches as I would necessarily like in a list like this, so we're not necessarily going to be reliably getting these. There is an option to bring in the ley lines to just slow down our opponent's approach to this game. That's something to think about. I don't believe this is a matchup where we care about the quick reflexes that much. Our opponent's not going to be removing our creature apart from with Borrower, but again, I don't think that's too much of an issue for us. Because we can just grind through things multiple times, I think we're okay not having the protection to go off there, and we're just going to sort of grind our opponent with some Wastelands and things like that, ideally. Thoughtseizes can be a little bit awkward here. We'll definitely take out 1 to keep this Abrupt Decay in. And it's a case of, do we want these Ley Lines of the Void? They can mess with our opponent. Like, it can stop things like Murktide Regent from coming into play. And it can make Dragon's Rage Channel a lot worse. But is that where I want to be? I don't think it is. Like, what happens is you board in the Ley Lines and then your opponent just Delvers you. Like, yes, we have a little bit of removal for it, but they can just protect that 1 Delver. If they've got more Borrowers, they'll be bringing them in. What does this hand do? It doesn't cast any spells. Or at least it doesn't until turn 2, where we have to go for our own land. So let's mulligan this one. Okay, I don't hate this hand. Like, we have removal, we have part of our combo. I think we let the Bayou go here. So we get to interfere with our opponent's creatures. We've got part of our combo going on. We've got a redraw, we've got a Wasteland. Yeah, I think we've got a reasonable selection of tools here. Right, Dragon's Rage Channeler. So we can make some decisions here. I don't think we're Wastelanding this right now. Alright, that's an excellent draw. Let's play this Exploration. Alright, that gets the Force of Will out of our opponent. That's fine. I thought that might be the case. There's a Murktide Regent going away. Next turn we can cast a Fatal Push around a Daze. If they had a Daze, they probably would have fired it off then instead. I think we are just on Fatal Pushing this creature now. Alright, so they're getting a bit of extra Surveil in first. They left a card on top of their library. Okay, so we've got the next creature answered. If they don't have a land, we can start chipping away at their mana base. If they do have a land, I'm not that interested in chipping away. Right, where's this going to be? A little baby Murktide? Baby Mercs, sure. Okay, so we'll play out this Wasteland. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature. Okay, they had a Force of Will there. Okay, so now we're in what I would describe as some amount of trouble. I don't believe we are wastelanding here. I think we might need more mana to operate on our turn, potentially. Alright, there is another green source. It isn't the most helpful thing in the world. I think we are drawing a card here. Exploration, you say. We can get this one down, get this one down. So, if we draw Life from a Loam, we want more mana to operate and try and draw cards with Nurturing Peatland. We don't have anything like Maze of Ith in our deck, which is a bit awkward. I think that would be a nice addition. But this Murktide is going to cause us some trouble. It's a 2-turn clock. If we had more black sources, then I would have obviously Thoughtseized first, but I didn't really want to be taking hits from this when our opponent didn't have counter spells on the previous turn either. Seeking of the Beast. Sure. What are they going to flip here? Brainstorm and Force of Negation. Okay. So they're just going to cast a Brainstorm here. Right. Big chunk out of our life total. We need something good this turn. Chain of Smog. That does not do anything here. We are just dead to this guy. Alright, we'll concede. Okay. We don't really have any additional tools to help us versus this guy. Yeah, a Maze of Ith would is something I think we're missing in our suite of things, either in the sideboard or the main deck. Alright, let's just continue and see if we can do it better this time around. Alright, we get to punch a hole in our opponent's hand and then start doing some Living Wish stuff. Where are we going with this? We're kind of just trying to play a Life from a Loam game. We do have removal spells and hand disruption. Alright, I think we can keep this one. It's kind of a bit of a slower, grindier one. Alright, we're off here. I think we're going to lead off on this Thoughtseizes. There is a Wasteland over there, which is somewhat annoying. If we don't want to be Wastelanded, we shouldn't take this Dragon's Rage Channeler. So I think we're going to take the Force of Will here. Is that right? Or do we take the Questing Druid and try and reduce their resources later on? That's interesting. We take the Force of Will. I think we'll take the Force of Will though. Because the tools they have, we want them to play the Channeler so that they don't wasteland us here. We kind of need more fetches to make use of this Life from a Loam, but we're only running like 2 of them in the deck, so it's not like a big part of our game plan. Right, so they play the Volcanic Island, so we don't have to worry about the Wasteland this turn. I don't want to just play this Nurturing Peatland out and... so we're kind of in an awkward spot here. What do we got on our sideboard? Let's have a little look. What do I want to do with these selection of tools? I don't just want to cast this Naked Life from a Loam. That's a very obvious tell that we're struggling for mana here. So we're going to play out our Nurturing Peatland. And then, what is the choice here? We can just Abrupt Decay this Dragon's Rage Channeler. That's probably for the best here. Now we could go and find a land. We could, we could slow roll our combo. Although we have the Thespian stages in the main, so we can't just get the full combo here. We can kind of get half of each combo. Yeah, Brainstorm. So I think this buys us another turn of not having to get wastelanded, because they're likely to want to use their Scalding Tunnel, although if the cards are really good that they draw, they probably won't want to shuffle them away, so they might not do the way. Okay, so they want to shuffle away. That's good for us. That gives us a little bit longer to try and make this Life from Loam do something. Alright. What are we doing here? Friend's got 4 cards in hand, we know 2 of them. Elvish Reclaimer is pretty nice. If we Living Wish for a land here, Then we can play the Reclaimer. Right, we just have a daze here. Alright, so now we're just dead, I think, because our opponent's going to Wasteland us. Alright, awkward. Artifact, creature, land, instance. This will give them the Delirium, so they can start cracking for 3 here. Right, there is the Wasteland. Goodbye to our green source. Yikes. Alright, so they get to draw off the bauble. We've drawn an Exploration we didn't get to do anything with here. Fire off the spell that we have. I think we are dead here, right? They're just going to Wasteland us and then we got nothing. I think we're supposed to take the Ponder here. Try and slow their roll a little bit. Take out some of their selection, but they're just going to Wasteland us and we're going to lose. Alright. There's the Wasteland. Goodbye, all of our mana sources. So if we can draw, like, forest into another land, then we might be alright here. Okay. We did not draw a land. You can see the Murktide. No, just a Delver. Okay. So we're going to 7. I think at this point it's just too far gone for us to win this one. Yeah, our mana base didn't really help us out as much as we wanted there. We kind of had this line from the Loam, but we didn't have the fetch lands to really leverage this. We just... we did get a little bit caught out with that last Living Wish where our opponent had drawn the counter magic for it. It's unfortunate. We show weakness and Delver struck. Just a hyper-efficient deck list when we're trying to do something a little bit cute here is going to be awkward at times, I think. But the first game was great, so I don't think we can argue with that one. That was some good Magic the Gathering. Let's go to round 2 and see if we can pick it up a bit. Alright, what are we doing here? We have Exploration, but we don't really have a lot of lands to make use of it. Like, I think this hand is worth keeping just off the back of Elvish Reclaimer. It's just such a good Magic card for this sort of strategy of deck. There's no getting away from the fact that our hand is a little bit awkward. Now, we don't have black mana, but we do have the Elvish Reclaimer, which we can go and find. So we can use Elvish Reclaimer, turn the stage into an Urborg, and then we can Living Wish for the Dark Depths and get it that way. We can also just go and get the Witherbloom Apprentice if we think that's going to be a better option. So this hand definitely does some things. We should add a second green source. I think it's better to get the Reclaimer online than just play this Exploration, which is unlikely to give us any additional land drops. Alright, here comes a Reclaimer. Let's pass. Underground Sea, Ponder. So this could be a Doomsday deck, or it could be like a Scam deck. Could be Rescaminator, could be a Shadow deck. Underground Sea is kind of the most played dual land at the moment, I believe. So it could be anything. Could be Grixis Delver. Okay, so what are we doing with our mana sources here? I think we are just activating our Elvish Reclaimer. Don't really want to get stifled here, but I also don't really want to get my land before our opponent has a chance to do Wasteland things. Wasteland a lot more prevalent than Stifle, so I think it's better to play around the Wasteland than it is to play around the Stifle. If our opponent does play a Wasteland, we can always turn this Thespian stage into a swamp. Brainstorm from our opponent there. Right, let's turn this Thespian stage into the Urborg here. Now, this isn't a risk-free proposition here. Fatal Push, that is interesting. Right, so what are we doing? So we only have access to 1 green mana right now, so if we want to Living Wish, we probably need to do it now. We'll say yes to this. So we have some options here. We can just go for the Hexmage combo, or we can go for the Smog combo. We kind of want to do both, so I think we're going to take the Witherbloom here, and then we can use this. Yeah, so we can use this after we've tried to do the Hexmage stuff. Let's see if that works. Because we've got this Elvish Reclaimer which can find the pieces here. Would like to find another land next turn so that we can do all of it. Alright, so we're holding up a Fatal Push. Both our opponents playing Doomsday, which kind of feels like, okay, maybe we're on Bug Beans, I guess. It could still be Doomsday where they play the Veil of Summer. Doesn't feel like our opponent's playing like the Scam sort of deck list. They've been cantripping a bit and not really applying that much pressure at all. Yep, so Beanstalk. Okay. Our opponent has begun the great card advantage whirl. And what is our play here? I would like to draw a land. A Wasteland. That's pretty annoying. I guess we'll float black here. I don't think it's going to do anything though. Alright, so that's not great for us. Dark Depths. Also not great for us. I guess we play out the Dark Depths and just hold up the Reclaimer and try and get the... Like, we can get Urborg and just have the combo that way. This combo is very good against bug bees, generally speaking, because they don't have that many answers to it. Thoughtseize. Okay, so we're going to lose our Vampire Hexmage, most likely. We could lose the Witherbloom. Like, we've got both combos in hand, so whichever one they try and go for, we can get the other one. Also, we can try and smog them out if they just take our Witherbloom Apprentice and just keep firing it at them until they lose all their cards. They probably will just take 2 and just leave it at that, because we are representing a Mire next turn. Which I think is probably the best way to approach winning this game, rather than Witherbloom, because they're going to have lots of removal that can hit Witherbloom, but they're not going to have that much removal that can hit Mire. We also dodged the Life of the Loam on Wasteland this turn. That's nice. Right, there is a basic island from our opponent. Up the Beanstalk. Triggering off of a Murktide Regent, you say? Okay. Well, guess here goes nothing. We have to sacrifice this forest. If we go and get the Urborg, that's probably our best shot. Another Witherbloom. Wild. Alright, I think our play is make our 2020 in our opponent's upkeep, so they can't wasteland us. Let it be known that if they just pop us with a Brazen Borrower. Now, a lot of the lists aren't even running Brazen Borrower right now, but running one would not be a surprise. But they have to have it. They got a couple of turns because they got this Murktide Regent. Alright, they're pondering looking for it. That's good news. I think if we find another land... No, wait, we don't actually have Sajurii Step in our build, so we can't just go and give our creature protection and win next turn. So we're going to have to grind through this Murktide with a couple of swings. They shuffled off that Ponder. Right, they're putting a Ponder back on top. It's going to grow their Murktide. But the Murktide is either going to just be killing us anyway, or it's going to be chump blocking. So this Brainstorm will draw that Ponder, so they're going to get more looks. If this Brainstorm doesn't find the Brazen Borrower now, then they're not going to be able to cast it this turn. They will lose their Murktide. So we can get in for at least 3 damage. Ponder, sure. So we can attack with the Reclaimer and the Mire here. And then we'll see what happens after that. I did shuffle off of that Ponder as well. A Thespian stage. Alright, that's something. I think we're just going to attack with the Mire here and hold up the Elvish Reclaimer so we can get access to our Witherbloom Apprentice. We can try and smog our opponent out. I don't think we're just going to fire off the smog here. We don't care about how many cards they have in hand. We just care about very specific cards in hand. So the smog is better used as a win condition if they do find the answer to what we're trying to do now. Alright, they got nothing. Mire does it again. So what is actually good in this matchup that we can bring in here? The Force of Vigor can blow up the beans, which is something that I'm somewhat interested in. The Quick Reflexes is okay here. The Abrupt Decay can also blow up beans, if that's what we're into. We kind of want the stuff that lets us grind a little bit. I don't think we're trying to like Shoulder's Edict away our opponent's Murktides. I don't think that's... I think that's an attempt to lose slower rather than win, if you know what I mean. I've not really been too impressed by these explorations yet. We haven't got them going with the Life from Loam. I think we can trim one though. They're obviously good with Ramunap as well when we sort of get going, but some of the problem is we've just got this exploration in hand and we're not really able to get going. We can probably trim probably Fatal Push. Actually, do we need any Fatal Pushes? They're only killing Bowmasters and that's not very exciting. Which means we can probably afford to bring in one Shoulder's Edict for a Murktide. I think that's pretty reasonable. And we'll go in like this. Well, we've got a combo in here. We can keep this. We can use the Living Wish to go and fetch some protection for our Witherbloom Apprentice. So I don't hate this. Our opponent is a Wasteland deck there. We have to keep that in mind. There's a Ponder. We don't really want to expose our green sources to Wastelands if we can avoid it. So I think we play the Urborg first. They did not shuffle off that Ponder. Okay, so now we can actually just play out a basic here. I like that. Right. So we can definitely get to make one of our 2-drops. Obviously, we're just going to try and go for this Living Wish. Our opponent's deck can run Days, though. So there's a question as to whether we play into the Days. They usually run like 2 to 4 copies. More commonly 2 than 4, but it's still something to think about. They got the Beanstalk. They've got the Beanstalk. All right, that is step 1 for our opponent. A crop rotation, you say? Right, let's Living Wish. Right, that just resolved. That's interesting. So we could go for like a Hexmage kill, or we could just get the Sylvan Safekeeper. That's an interesting one. How much are we expecting our opponent? That's tough. Just think, how much is our opponent likely to have to deal with our Merit? We will need to crop rotate in order to do that. That is interesting. I like the Hexmage line here. Just give us the ability to present both combos here. There's a Brainstorm from our opponent. So we can play out Hexmage and then crop rotate on our opponent's end step. Or in response to something like a Bowmasters. Alright, so we'll play out this Urborg here. Let's play out the Hexmage. So this is somewhat telegraphed that we have a crop rotation. Right, is our opponent going to Bowmasters us here, or are they just fetching to clear the Brainstorm cards? So what we're going to do here is they're going to ping our Hexmage. And we are going to crop rotate away. I think it's probably the Urborg here. It's either the Urborg or the Swamp. Let me get rid of the Urborg here. It's a pretty good counterspell target for our opponent. Yep, there it is. Right, we will sack our Hexmage so it doesn't die, so they don't get any tokens off of their August Bowmasters. We don't feel so bad about that because we have the Life from the Loam to recover for the purposes of our crop rotation there. If they spend the turn wastelanding us and we get the Life from the Loam off, then we kind of nip that in the bud a little bit as well. And then we can just make a load of lands and then try and Witherbloom our opponent out. Just trying to tax our opponent's resource in different ways. A Murktide region though, that doesn't give us a lot of time to work this one out. That's 6 power coming in. Or 7 power including the Bowmaster. Alright deck, we're going to need something useful here. Interesting. I think we play out the Thespian stage here. We could just play out the Witherbloom Apprentice, but it's quite obvious our opponent's going to have some removal here. So I think the actual play is to get this Urborg. Our opponent can have something like a Force of Negation here. But again, that's not really something we care about. This is kind of a little bit of a bait spell that also gets us a little bit of advantage going forwards. Thoughtseize. Okay. So we're probably going to have our Witherbloom Apprentice combo broken up here. Yeah. So our Chain of Smog doesn't actually do anything here because we only care about very specific cards our opponent can have. And if they have that specific card, they'll just take the 2 cards and call it quits. I don't think we're going to be dredging that. A Wasteland. I don't hate that. But it's not really what we're about right now, is it? We're just going to assemble our combo every turn until our... Well, not every turn, every other turn until our opponent dies to it. Right, we're going to do this in the upkeep to dodge Wasteland. Alright. You got an answer over there, opponent, or not? Shoulder's Edict. Well, that's an answer. So we can dredge Life from the Loam. But that's not going to be good enough here, right? So if we dredge Life from the Loam, we can't actually assemble our combo quick enough here. So we have to say no to this. And we've drawn the Hexmage, which isn't quite what we need. If we crack the Peatland, they get to ping us with Bowmasters. A Thespian stage. No, that doesn't do it either. Yeah, we were just very outclassed in this matchup, really. Oh no, sorry, we still got one more game, haven't we? Alright. Let's just go back in. I think this is still fine. I still don't think we want the... maybe actually we'd rather have Shoulder's Edict instead of one of these decays. I like the Force of Vigor can hit multiple beans, so we'll keep that in. But yeah, like we got kind of crushed in that one because they had a lot more answers because they can bring in the Shoulder's Edict. So it makes things a little bit difficult for us. And the fact they have the Murktide gives them the time to, or sorry, denies us the time to get our combo together. Because if they were just trying to answer our combo, we could just deploy it again and again. But they were doing it with pressure, which was the issue there. They are also a Wasteland with recurring Wasteland, either off of Loam or Witherbloom Command as well. Alright, what do we got here? Not got the mana I would like to have access to here. If we keep this hand, we're going to be trying to draw a black source. Now, a lot of our deck is mana, and we can cast a lot of spells here. So I think we are supposed to keep this. But it's a little awkward. I think I like playing the Exploration out first. And then that can allow us to play the Swamp and Thoughtseize our opponent as well. Which means if we do draw a black source, we can kind of get things going. A Shoulder's Edict is kind of one of the things that messes with what we're trying to accomplish here, so I think it's worth taking that. Because that can mess with either of our combos, to be honest. And I don't really want to have to deal with that. We're never going to be able to, like, outgrind our opponent. Their deck, you know, in a lot of games is going to be able to draw most of their deck. So we have to care about the specifics. Is it emergency brainstorm time? I think we made a mistake here, though. I think we should have played the Vampire Hexmage and not the Dark Depths, and then play the Dark Depths after we resolved the Hexmage. I got a little bit too excited there, and that could cost us. Right, here comes the emergency brainstorm. It has to find a blue card and a Force of Will here. But we definitely should have waited to see if the Hexmage resolved before playing this. So if we lose because of that, then that's fair. That's a punish that we deserve. It's all good. We'll do this now because we know our opponent's got a Wasteland sat in their hand. Alright, opponent. How would you like them apples? Alright, we're on the board. So, as anyone who watches my channel knows, I'm a, Turbodepths is my signature deck. And Turbodepths is pretty good against the Bug Beanstalk deck, precisely because they have so little ways of interacting with your Mire Lage. It's basically just a Shoulder's Edict. And, that's a 2-mana play that they have to hold up the mana for, and you can sort of go underneath a lot of what they're doing there. And we sort of did a very similar thing here. So, alright, we're on the board, 1-1, let's go to round 3. Alright, our opening hand for this round has the mana problem again, so let's mulligan this one. What about this one? I don't want to play a game of just Takenuma, so we're going to have to send this one back for a fresh 5. I don't really want to go to 4. Can we keep this? Any green source is great. I think we just have to keep this and hope that things work out for us. I think we get rid of one of the Witherbloom Apprentices, and then it's probably the Living Wish. This obviously can get us some useful tools, but it's probably better just to have the Hexmage. Is that true? We're more likely to be able to cast Hexmage, I think. I would rather have that as an option. Right, let's just play a Swamp and pass. Our opponent's probably expecting us to entomb in their end step. That's normally what I dread when someone just leads Swamp pass. Thoughtseize. Alright, so our hand is not very functional right now. Now, Thoughtseize is not normally a card in Scam decks. It's normally in Death Shadow decks and Doomsday decks. You will sometimes see 1 or 2 of them in Grixis Delver. And it's not completely impossible to see it in the Bugstalk decks either. Right, Chain of Smog. So we can't just point at our opponent's face and try and whittle away their resources. I think our plan is Wasteland our opponent and hope that's good. And gives us some time to draw into this game. Resetting the game for another turn and letting us get another draw step is probably fine. Oh wow, we just got him. Okay. I think we're supposed to just deploy a threat here. Like, we've got the combo with the Thespian stage anyway, if we draw it. And if our opponent's stumbling on lands, we can at least try and clock them. Alright, we're going to turn this into this now, so that we've got a little bit of protection from Wastelands, if our opponent's running any. Obviously, we'll regret that if our opponent plays a green land. But we kind of don't want our opponent to play any lands right now. They're going to clean up a Brainstorm. Okay, it doesn't give us any more information about our opponent's deck. We're going to tax. I don't think we want to be Chain of Smogging our opponent here. If we find a green source, we can just try and go. Right, another brainstorm gone. We've got a Thespian stage here. Let's swing. Which is not how I drew up winning with this deck, but here we are. We are doing okay. Our opponent obviously has a full grip of cards, so they only need a little bit for this to do some real work. We should have also copied our Thespian stage there in step. Turned it into a swamp so it can't be wastelanded. Like, we've still got 5 more turns of swinging with this. Let's have a swamp. Fatal push, that's not the one. Thoughtseize, brainstorm, brainstorm, ponder. Just cantrips. They're trying to give us minimum information. We'll play a wasteland, I guess. We can turn a Thespian stage into a wasteland in our opponent's end step as well. Just keep the pain coming. Right, they discarded a ponder. Again, not trying to give us any information, even though ponders can help them out. If I cast this Thoughtseize, our opponent is possibly going to scoop to this. Oh no, they're just going to show us. Okay, so now we know what our opponent's playing. Okay. Dark Ritual. Infernal Tutor. Like, we can let them do a little Tendrils of Agony, so I think we just take the Tutor here. Alright, that makes more sense why our opponent kept that hand. Like, Chain of Smog, we just take their cantrips and nothing happens. Just looks like an ad nauseum Tendrils deck. That's the Infernal Tutor is usually a big sign of that. Alright, they found themselves a land. Turbodepths is kind of fine, but not really doing anything here. Because we already have them dead with the Hexmage. Attack this. Alright, so our play here is to wasteland their fetch land. Force them to crack it for a basic. We just need whatever interaction we have here. So this is going to get a brainstorm off of our opponent. Like I said, we just got to have the interaction that we have here. We will point this Chain of Smog at our opponent. We just need to get to one more turn. Our opponent will probably know if they're dead or not based off of this brainstorm. They are a critical mass deck, so we will be pointing this Chain of Smog at them. I do not believe our opponent is going to fire this back at us. They discarded 2 Veil of Summers. I believe they are not going to fire this back at us. Okay. They're on 1 life, so no fetch lands work here. But a Lotus Petal gets the chain started into Ritual. They didn't scoop, and they know what the top card of their library is, so it's a little bit worrying. By taking some cards out of our opponent's hand, we also make Brainstorms worse. Alright, so we did get there. Our opponent had a bit of a rough one there, if we're being honest. So we don't have great interaction here, truth be told. But we do have some Force of Vigors, Leyline, and potentially Abrupt Decay. These Fatal Pushes do nothing, so that's a couple of Leylines. That stops some Past in Flame and Beseech the Mire style cards. We're not going to need these Legolas' quick reflexes, so we can get this Force of Vigor and this Leyline. Force of Vigor allows us to blow up some like lines like diamonds and stuff at awkward timings for our opponent. And then, do we want anything else here? Life from Loam is kind of slow. I think that's still fine. Ghost Quarter is probably not amazing, but probably playable. No, I think we're just going in like this. The other option here is to board in the extra combo pieces so that we're more likely to draw them. That makes our Living Wishes a lot worse. But we could just board out some copies of Living Wish for these, so we're more likely to just get to our combo, because the extra turn we have to spend Living Wishing in this matchup is going to be pretty bad for us. So I don't hate this as a strategy. Do we want to Boseiju in? How are we getting rid of Empty the Warrens tokens? I don't think we are. Okay. We can Blast Zone and remove all our counters with Hexmage. It's a weird play, but it's one that we have available to us. Do we leave the Living Wish in for that? What is the Living Wish getting us if we leave it in? Like Ramunap, maybe. So we can have a Boseiju or we can have a Decay. So Decay can hit things like play. So they'll play out their fast mana so that it doesn't get discarded, but then we can blow it up. So I think that's just better than having the Living Wishes. We just don't have the time for that. Okay, we have a Thoughtseize. We have the Dark Depths. We have the Hexmage. We just need another black source. And maybe we can draw an Urborg for turn. I don't think we can throw back a Thoughtseize hand here in this matchup. Now our opponent could just lead off on a Veil of Summer and invalidate our Thoughtseize. So if they don't cast a cantrip here, then we don't Thoughtseize into their Veil of Summer. Alright, looks like they're casting something. So they could be going here, they could just be sculpting their hand with a ponder. Alright, looks like a ponder. Okay. So obviously you want to see a shuffle here, but if there's a good card, they will leave it on top so that we can't Thoughtseize out of their hand. But I think we still have to go for the Thoughtseize here. Also, we have to be aware that Yavimaya can turn on their Veil of Summer. They shuffle their library. Okay, so our Thoughtseize is going to be good here. That is another black source. I think that's probably better to get in play than in Takenuma. Because Takenuma has other text when it's not in play, so we may as well. Okay, so we've got the Galvanic Relay, so we'll take that. That's kind of our opponent's ability to draw through this one. So next turn we can play Takenuma and play Hexmage if we want to. I don't believe our opponent's going to have any removal in here. So I'm just going to play this out. It just gives us a little bit more damage that we can inflict on our opponent in case they've got an ad nauseum line. We can at least take a little bit of damage off of them so that it'll be a slightly higher chance that it doesn't go off and win them the game. Now, they might not have ad nauseum in their deck, but it's a possibility. Attack for 2. So we're presenting lethal right now. Right, cracking a Bloodstained Mire. We're going to see some sort of cantrip here. Alright, so you've got the Surveil Land. Very nice. They put one card on top of their library. That's pretty bad news for us, I would say. I guess it could just be a cantrip that they left on, because that gives them more shots at finding the thing they want. A Mox Opal. Alright, so it begins. Is it that ritual? No, the Dark Ritual. I beseech the mirror. Let's just get them. They could get the enchantment Song of Creation. There it is, Song of Creation, yeah. So basically now they're just trying to draw cards by playing these 0-drops and draw into more stuff. So it's certainly a possibility they win the game here. I can just cast Veil of Summer as a draw 2 here. Song of Creation also allows you to play an additional land on each of your turns. So they'll be able to play one of these lands that they draw from their multiple triggers. It's pretty tasty. Alright, they're cracking their Misty Rainforest in response to the Chrome Mox trigger. That's interesting. They also want less lands in their deck for the next time they draw a card off a Song of Creation. Right, they put the Veil of Summer into the Chrome Mox. Chain of Vapor. So we're going to target their Chrome Mox here. This will let them draw 2 cards. It will also let them draw another 2 cards when they replay their Chrome Mox. So our opponent is working their way through. There's also a good reason why we can't just F6 a turn. They would like to bounce our Vampire Hexmage. Right, we will make our Dark Depths in response. If we copy this and bounce their Song of Creation, then they can just bounce our Merit Lage. So we just have to say no to copies of this. They might be doing this to see if we make a mistake. Alright, I'm going to keep going here. We can now F6 for this turn and just see what our opponent's up to. Alright, I think this is probably going to be game at this point. They've got a full grip of cards and they're casting Ponders here. They do need to hit some more mana. But yeah, so like they've got Lotus Petals, they've probably got Lion's Eye Diamonds, more Moxes. There's Chrome Mox. So now Mox Opals are going to be live for mana as well. Storm Count is very lethal. Should relatively easily be able to draw the whole deck. Yep, another Chrome Mox. Yep, I'm just going to cut to when something important happens, really, because we're just going to be playing a bunch of spells here. Alright, they're just pointing at Tendrils of Agony at us, so we can concede this one. Okay, we don't really have anything else we can do here. So in we go, I suppose. I guess we could board in a Boseiju just as another way of blowing up our opponent's Song of Creation. I don't hate that. Alright, let's try this. I don't think these Abrupt Decays are going to do anything, if I'm being honest with you. So what does our hand do? We play the Reclaimer, and then it's very slow. I think we need to mulligan to think better. What does this hand do? We have Graveyard Hate. It's probably going to get hit. Is that good enough? So this is probably just going to get hit by a Thoughtseize. Or Duress or whatever. We do get to start loaming up we're not really going anywhere. I think we need more of a proactive plan here. Right, this hand is unkeepable because of the mana. Yeah, we're having a rough time here. Okay, this is a good one. You got to believe sometimes. So we're obviously keeping... We've got to get rid of 3 cards. So we get rid of Nurturing Peatland. We get rid of Thespian Stage. And then this is the thing. I think we get rid of a land. I want to be able to Thoughtseize. I don't think goldfishing on turn 3 is good enough in this matchup. I think we need to interact with our opponent from early on. So hopefully this will do something. And if we can draw a land, we can try and goldfish on turn 3 still. Beseech the Mire. Thoughtseize. I don't really want them to have a Thoughtseize, because we don't really have a hand to work with. Okay. We've got a plan. Our opponent's going to need to do some sculpting here. But they've recognised that we're not a very fast deck for the most part. Like, we obviously can do the fast stuff, but they've sort of seen that we're not fully turbo. Alright, so we've missed on the second land. It's our turn to not have any lands after we waste on our opponent in game 1. Alright, so it's probably going to be, yeah, I was going to say, a Surveil land, and they can untap and do some brainstorm shenanigans. They milled a land, sure. Would love to draw a land. Ideally one that taps for green or black mana. So here's one of the brainstorms. Cracking the Bloodstained Mire. And a Ponder to follow it up with. I did not shuffle the library, so we could be in a spot of trouble here. A Boseiju who endures. A turn too late, perhaps. But we'll see. Alright, here's the thing that we can do. Can you kill us? You brainstormed and pondered last turn. And you kept off the ponder, so... I'm not feeling great about our chances here. They might have just pondered into a Thoughtseize and want to just like nail the card in our hand that's going to beat them. Because if you give a combo deck enough time, they will win the game. That's what the combo decks are designed to do. Alright, our opponent's playing out some stuff. I think this is just lethal with the Beseech, right? So they Beseech, throw away the Mox, crack the Lion's Eye Diamond, replay them all, and then we're dead. So didn't have the Guy's Will in their hand. So this should be lethal. Yeah. That'll do. They're just going to go through the chain and kill us there. So if we'd have kept a 5-card hand instead of a 4-card hand, we win that game. If we'd have kept... if we'd have drawn this Boseiju 1 turn earlier, we win that game as well. So pretty close as it turns out. But like we're having a little bit of trouble with keeping some of our hands in the mana. It's a recurring problem I'm sort of noticing. Obviously small sample size, but we can have a look at that at the end. We've got 2 rounds to go. We're 1 and 2. Kind of an awkward one here. Like, our mana is not great for what we're trying to accomplish here. Now, we do have the combo, but again, we're going to need to find some mana. We can use the Ghost Quarter on ourselves to go and get the second black mana that we need to cast our Hexmage. But it's a touch slow. We don't have any interaction. But I'm a little bit worried about our mana base sometimes. So I think I am going to keep this one and hope that our opponent is going to give us the time to play a slightly slower game. There is Misty Rainforest. And a pass. Okay. Maybe we do get to play a slightly slower game. So I think we play out just the forest here. We can crop rotation. We can't get Bojuka Bog because it's in our hand, annoyingly, if we need that for an emergency. But we can crop rotate for... We can't quite get what we need. All right, Undercity Sewers milling Echo Vions. That's pretty cool. All right. This is going to be a tough matchup. Veil of Summer. What are we doing about Veil of Summer? Nothing. Chromox. Burning Wish. Lion's Eye Diamond. Dark Ritual. Cabal Ritual. And then we're going to see this Echo Vions flashback. I think I will float this mana. Are we crop rotating now? I don't think we are. We don't know what we're getting. So I think we hold out for the chance that we maybe draw a crop rotation on the next flip, like this. There's a Lotus Petal. There's Ponder. If the Bojuka Bog wasn't in our hand, we could have been alright here. But was not the case. A Dark Ritual with art I've never seen before. A Burning Wish with enough mana to cast Tendrils for lethal. Alright, we did not stand a chance here. Oh, Beseech the Mire, what? Why are you just killing us with tendrils? Or do you not have tendrils in your sideboard? Seems odd though. Right, they're just tendrilsing us this way. Sure. Either way, it gets us. Okay, so we got pretty heavily smoked there. So again, I think we want our combo pieces so we have a chance to go off quicker. We're not going to want removal spells. We're going to want these quick reflexes. Not a big fan of these living wishes when we need to go fast. So let's have these ley lines in, and it's basically the same sideboarding as the previous match. And we'll roll with that. We just don't have the time to cast a living wish and then put our combo when we need to just have our pieces and go. Now this does mean that we are slightly less likely to draw them, but this is the matchup where we need to win quickly before our opponent does. So we don't really have the tools to suppress them. Oh dear. No, we're not keeping this one. Let's try again. What does this hand do? Double Swamp. Bit awkward. I think we're running too many basics in our list. I think we have to do better than this. This is very awkward. Do I want to go to 4? Land, Witherbloom, Smog is a fine 4. I think it's probably better than this. Yep, this is better. But again, we're in that same place where are we keeping the Smog so we can just Goldfish on turn 3? Or are we keeping the Thoughtseize? I think we have to... I think we have to throw back the Forest here and just try and draw a green source. Because our opponent will kill us before turn 3. That's what the Echo Vion's decks do. So we have to keep this and try and draw the things. Why you do this to me, opponent? They can do a small relay, but I don't think we can win if they Thoughtseize us. So I think we have to take the Thoughtseizes. We also can't really beat the Veil of Summer if they hold it up. Actually, no, that's not true. We can because we're not targeting them with anything. Ignore that. The Witherbloom doesn't target. It just drains from each opponent. Well, it's not actually a drain. You gain 1 and each opponent loses 1. You didn't gain 1 for each opponent. But in 1v1, it is essentially the same. All right, so we're going to see... I thought we were going to see a Galvanic Relay. Oh, okay, they have a Thoughtseize. I'm surprised they didn't get any red mana off of this relay. Well, this sucks big time. They're going to take the Smog because that's something that we can use to interact with them. If they just take the Witherbloom, then we might Smog them and annoy them. Nurturing Peatland. All right, we've got a threat. So we were paid off for our choice of the keep there. So they're gonna cycle this Veil of Summer to draw a card. They are, sure. Yeah, we just don't really have the tools to beat these sorts of decks. Like we don't have anything like a Collector Roof that can shut down all their fast mana, which feels like something that we probably should have in our wish board. All right, what are we up to? I think we are attacking here. Are we giving up our only green source for the chance of drawing a Thoughtseize? I think we are. A Dark Depths. We're going to play a land for turn. Sure, this is a kill in 2 turns. It might be too slow, but we'll see. Force of Vigor, not a card we get to play. But we have a 20/20 in our opponent's turn. So the relay is no longer good enough for our opponent. They're going to need something better. So we're probably going to see a blue source here, so they can start using Brainstorms and Ponders. Right, Surveil Land. What are you going to do? They left it on top. That's probably bad news because we're representing a win. So the only thing they would keep is either something that lets them dig for a bunch of cards or something that lets them win the game. So this Chromox is probably going to imprint the relay because then relay isn't going to save them here. Okay, they drew a guy as well. So we're going to see 4 mana here. What is this? They do have triple black. They just tapped wrong off one of the lands. Yeah, so there's going to be a Beseech. The Mire. What does this get them? The Song of Creation. So this isn't a guaranteed win. They can whiff here. This is the only draws they get because they can't play the relay. So they have to draw into more draws here. Alright. There's a Lion's Eye Diamond. Got another one? Okay, so they're probably away here. Yep. Though the chances of them winning this game are about 99%. But we got to let them click through it. Right, they've got to beseech the Mire here. This can just go and get tendrils and kill us. Yep, and there it is. And we are dunzos. Yep. I don't know how we're supposed to beat this matchup. Like, we can go kind of quick with our combo, but this deck is always going to go underneath us. Which is why in my Turbodepths list, I run 4 Null Rod effects in the sideboard. Because you just need something on turn 2 that can just lock the game out. Or on turn 1 because we run fast mana in that deck as well. Alright, we are now a 1 and 3, which is a bit awkward. But we are splitting the games, you know. It's not like we're just getting completely bodied. Like, Storm is going to be hard for us. And we did manage to split the games against Storm, so that's something. Alright, let's go to the final round and see if we can get that 2-3. So, we kind of got an awkward mana base here. Like, we got some hand disruption, but we're not really going anywhere with this hand. So, I think we have to mulligan. We've got a lot of A plus Bs. We need to draw the right ones. This does make a 20-20, so I guess we keep this one. If I draw a green source, would I rather have a Ramunap Excavator with our Wasteland or a Living Wish? I think it's the Excavator here. Also lets us rebuy our combo. So we do have to fire off the turn 1 Thoughtseize before our opponent has things like Brainstorm to alter their hand, or has like a turn 1 combo, or Veil of Summer. Okay, so what we're going to see here. Fable the Mirror Breaker, Blood Moon. I guess we take the Blood Moon. That's probably the most annoying thing here. We don't really have a clean way to answer that just yet. Probably quite interesting for them that we played a basic and then took the Blood Moon. But they can play a Fable and Mirror Breaker turn 1, which I think is most likely what they play here. Because the earlier you get that down, the more value you get off of it. Oh, they drew a Trinisphere. Okay. That's not actually that bad for us here. So they've got a mountain here. Do I want to just take out their City of Traitors and then assume that we're going to draw a land at some point? I think I do. So we just need to draw a land and then we can do our combo. Our opponent has to draw 2 lands. Well, they could draw a soul land, but they're going to need to draw some more mana before they get to do anything as well. A Nurturing Peatland. So there is our mana. Opponent did not draw anything. That's good. Play one of these. Get this little guy down. Next turn we can Dark Depths. Or we can Wasteland lock our opponent if we want to be really miserable. Alright, they didn't draw anything. There's Dark Depths. Let's go to attacks. In we come. Alright, our opponent has had enough. So, this is the matchup where we want the Abrupt Decays and the Force of Vigor. They're pretty useful. Shoulder's Edict, also kind of useful. Can take out Magus of the Moon or some of their scary things. It's certainly an option for us. How much do we want Living Wishes in the main deck versus having them in... having just the things we're fetching in our deck? That's an interesting question. Having a thing that we can just use to fetch and kill a Blood Moon feels like it's going to be better than just having one of those effects. So I think we do actually want the Living Wishes in for this matchup. The Legolas Quick Reflex doesn't really do anything against mono red, so we can get rid of those. We do not require a Bojuka Bog, so we can trim on that. That gives us one more card to remove. How do I feel about Life from the Loam here on Exploration? I think we can trim an Exploration. We never want to draw 2 of those. Do you want to have more Hexmages? No, I think we're okay here. Alright, so this hand doesn't play magic because we have no coloured sources here. Let's mulligan this one. Alright, we've got basics to work on. Alright, yeah, this hand is pretty good. We can keep this one. Do I want to keep the Exploration here? Do I want to keep the Hexmage? If we get rid of the... So if we go turn 1, Reclaimer... we could go turn 1, Exploration and Reclaimer. Turn 2, Urborg, Crack. If we draw another land, we just get to go. I think it's the Exploration that goes here. We don't need to be that fast. We've got 2 green sources so we can cast a Force of Vigor. Right, here is a Chrome Mox from our opponent. There is a Shatterskull Smashing. There is an Ancient Tomb. We're going to see a Blood Moon. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. We could break both of these if we wanted to, but it will cost us our Elvish Reclaimer, which is kind of the only way we have to win this game in our hand right now. Well, it's no longer the only way we have to win the game right now. I think having the Reclaimer is better than having the Living Wish. So in our opponent's upkeep, I think we want to smash both of these. Is that true? If they play a Blood Moon, we need to be able to blow it up, so I guess we can't do that. It is annoying, though. It's definitely annoying. Right, so they're going to attack their Goblin Shaman, get a treasure. They could play something like a Fury this turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. And that would be pretty devastating. They didn't pitch any cards to their Fable, which is terrifying. Dead. Yep. An aptly named card for being pointed at our creature. Okay. So now, what are we up to? I think we are playing this. Cast the Living Wish. Go and get the Dark Depths here. Let's make this bigger so we don't click on the wrong one. Dark Depths. Next turn, we can play Hexmage and Dark Depths. They might have a Gone in their hand, but we don't really have a choice to play around that, I don't think. Not right now. If you draw a green card, we can always smash up their artifact mana so they don't have the mana to interact with our thing at the right time. Depending on how much mana they leave open, of course. Reflection does get to start copying stuff next turn, but we're hoping that that doesn't matter. How much damage is this? This is what? 4, 5, 6? And then next turn we just try and Hexmage them out. Okay. Here comes a Hexmage. I don't believe our opponent's going to have a sudden shock. Okay. Is this good enough? They can attack us for 11, but we get to block 3 of that. City of Traitors. Do you have an answer to Marillage? If the answer is yes, then we lose. Just like a Fury. That is a Fury. They can copy the Fury and attack us with it. If the last card in their hand is Broadside Bombardiers, they get to swing about 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's exactly lethal. Okay, they've just got the Gone here. That's pretty bad news for us. It was only a possibility when they use the first one. Right, so this is 6, 7, 8, 9. So what can we draw so that we're not actually dead here? I don't believe we have any draws that help us here. I think we can just scoop this one up. Okay, so they had the thing. Are we supposed to play around them having the thing? Like, we could board back in these quick reflexes. Is that what I'm about here? What would I like them instead of? Maybe instead of explorations. Explorations can help us, like, accelerate out. But I think I'd rather have cards that make our win more likely, because we should have enough time to do the thing once against this deck. Yeah, another mana source. And we get to crop rotate for the Dark Depths. We do get to start the game off with a Thoughtseize, which isn't the worst. And hopefully take out the scariest thing over there. What are we looking at? Broadside Bombardiers is the thing that I'm most concerned with here. We'll leave them without any threats. Hearse can obviously start cracking up, but we do have a Vampire Hexmage we can use to remove all the counters if we get in a bind. And it shouldn't be able to crank up quick enough to really matter. So we're probably going to see Den of the Bugbear or Shatterskull Smashing as their land for turn. Unless they've drawn something that they feel the need to put into play. Okay, so we're going to see a Chrome Mox. This is almost certainly going to put a Shatterskull underneath it. They've got 2 of those. There goes a Shatterskull. And they're playing the Den of the Bugbear and probably the Hearse. There it is. Okay. So they can start scaling this up now. But I don't really care about that too much. A Chain of Smog. I don't think we're just going to fire this one off. So I think the plan here is play the Reclaimer. This gives us access to some other lands. Alternatively, we can... Alright, so just remove that. Yeah. So if that's not good enough and they remove it with like a Shatterskull, that's still fine. We've got a plan. We just need an additional green source or a black source. A Fury pitching the Shatterskull Smashing. Okay, so we're going to lose our Elvish Reclaimer. Not ideal, obviously, but also not terrible for us. There's the City of Traitors. A Goblin Rabblemarsh, on the other hand, that is a scary one. We need to find our mana source soon, because this is going to scale up quite quickly. If they find another mana source, they can activate another Bugbear, and that's a lot of goblins. This does make goblins, right? A Bugbear, no, 3/2 goblin creature, and it makes more goblins, yeah. So that scales up pretty darn quickly. Right, found the Yavimaya. That's good news. So, black and black for this. And then we have access to the Dark Depths. We also have a first striking creature, which is not irrelevant on this board. A Blood Moon. Cast crop rotation. We'll get rid of this Nurturing Peatland in response, and this should be the game. We have no cards going on. Yep, our opponent sees it. So we managed to put together the 2-3 at the end there. Obviously not an amazing record. And we got paired against Storm twice, and our deck just doesn't have anything that's going to be good against Storm. Like, yes, we have some hand disruption, but that's not enough to beat Storm. You need like a big hard lock piece like a Collector Reef, which feels like something we probably need in our wish board here. So yeah, we're definitely unlucky to get paired in that twice. The Bug Beans matchup felt a little bit tricky. But, you know, we do have the ability to just sort of do our thing. And sometimes that's good enough. We did actually manage to take down the Bug Beans matchup, if I remember rightly. But it was a little bit tough. And the Delver matchup, we kind of split the games. We don't have the sort of velocity that like a full-on turbo build has. And if we're trying to play a slower game, that invites Murktide Regent attacks in a little bit more. And that was kind of what did for us a little bit there. But, you know, Delver can just Delver you sometimes. Let's talk about his deck, because I think there's a lot to discuss on this one. So, I think there's some mana-based issues. We definitely ran into them a few times this league. So, let's move some things around so we can discuss this fully. So, let's pull out our colourless lands over here from this pile. So, these are our coloured sources, which is 15 coloured sources, which is a very small amount of coloured sources. Like, if you look at a Delver deck which has a bunch of cantrips and stuff like that, you'll normally see 14 colored sources and 4 wastelands. So we've got one more color source than a Delver deck. But we have a come into play tap land. We don't have a lot of fetch lands, so we're not necessarily going to be drawing the colors we want. We're just going to be drawing, you know, colored sources. And we don't have the cantrips that they do to kind of make all this come together. So if we look at our total land count as well. So we've got 25 lands, which is reasonable for an expiration, but you'd normally expect to see a lot closer to 30 lands in a deck with expiration in. So I don't think we'll leverage expiration very well. It's obviously quite good with Life from the Loam, but it's not quite at its strongest here. So I think we do need some more coloured sources of mana in this deck, but I think what would also help is if we run some more fetch lands. So if we just trimmed some of these, so we could easily fit in some more fetch lands. Probably the Takenuma. I'm not personally a fan of Takenuma. So if we just had 3 more fetch lands, all of a sudden, instead of having these just being 1 mana, we can use these to go and get like Bayou. We probably replace a Nurturing Peatland with a second Bayou. That gives us what? 1, 2, 3, 4 fetchables, which is still quite slim, but 4 fetch lands, 4 fetchables is reasonable for like a deck like this. You could definitely run more. I think we do need to run more coloured source in the deck. I think that is an issue that we ran into a bunch this league. Like lots of hands we had to mulligan because we couldn't cast spells. And what we also have to remember is we're trying to cast a black-green spell here, which, you know, has some quite specific casting costs, as does this black-black spell. So we do need our mana to be a little bit more solid than it is right now. So I think this change to start with would definitely help. And then we probably need to make some cuts just to add some more land to the deck in general. I think we could probably trim an expiration, maybe even all the expirations just for some more land. You know, we can put in some like techie lands that do stuff but actually tap for colors as well. But I think just having a little bit more starting mana so we mulliganing slightly less often would be a useful thing to have here. Actually, I think we probably want Surveil lands here. So if we add, so it turns Nurturing Peatland into a Bayou. So let's remove this. Turn this into this. So remove. All right, so we've added in these Verdant Catacombs and the 2 Bayous. Then we add in a couple of underground mortuary here as well. I think that's going to give us a little bit more sticking power of what we're trying to accomplish. And then we can turn this exploration into another land. And we can have a little think about that in a minute. I've got some other stuff I'd like to talk about in this list as well. So Living Wish is kind of like the big, like, interesting thing that's trying to hold everything together here. Now, there's definitely some pros and cons to Living Wish. Now, the pros give us a lot of options that we can go and fetch in a game. But that does come at the cost of sideboard slots. If we need more, you know, certain tools to deal with certain matchups, instead of having lots of kind of semi-marginal things that we can find that do, you know, some of these cards are definitely great in certain spots, for sure. But how much are we going to necessarily want to Living Wish for them when we could have more, you know, like Force of Vigors or big powerful Haymakers that can swing matchups that we can board in. So there is that cost with Living Wish. There's also the opportunity cost in your deck. So in order to play these 4 Living Wish, we need to remove some of our combo cards. So we have less chance of just drawing the Witherbloom Apprentice or drawing the Hexmage or drawing the Dark Depths. So we have less copies of that effect in our deck, which means that we're kind of going to be more dependent on Living Wish to resolve to get our things, which means we are adding on an extra turn for when we can combo off on average, which is obviously a bit of a drawback if the format is quite fast like it is now. You definitely have to be making impactful plays regularly. So by sort of having this a little bit slower is an issue. However, what I will say is Witherbloom Apprentice isn't necessarily a card you want to deploy immediately, right? You want to try and deploy it with the Chain of Smog or whatever. So, you know, you don't want it sat around getting eaten by sorcery speed removal like prismatic endings or whatever. So the Living Wish getting a Witherbloom Apprentice isn't actually that big of an issue to me. And also getting a Vampire Hexmage isn't such a big issue, but is much more of an issue than getting the Witherbloom, because if you have less Vampire Hexmage in, you have less of the ideal draw of like turn 1, Urborg Thoughtseize, turn 2, Hexmage Depths, which is, you know, like what you ideally want to do in these sorts of decks. It's like the quickest, deadliest outing you can do. But we've got less copies of Dark Depths, we've got less copies of Hexmage in our main deck because we're going for this Living Wish thing. Now we do get some utility here, and I mentioned it a few times that I think we should have Collector Roof in here. It's just a really powerful silver bullet that you see in like the Green Sun Zenith decks all the time. So I think that would be a useful thing to have as a Living Wish target for us to go and find, because you can just shut down some decks. That would actually give us a little bit of game against Storm. It would mean that we're trying to do a turn 3 Collector Roof, which can be a touch slow for the matchup, but if we pair it with a Thoughtseize, we can get there. Obviously, we've only got 6 bits of hand disruption, but if we can do Thoughtseize, Living Wish, Collector Roof as a curve, that should be pretty good against Storm, and then we can eventually win with whatever else we've got going on. So that's something I'd think about. We can probably trim the Ramunap Excavator. That's probably an easy one to cut if you wanted to do that. I'm also not a massive fan of the Caracas and Blast Zone. I think they're okay, but I think we could just have more impactful things like Collector Roof. Endurance is another one that you might want in the sideboard as well. So you can just go and fetch a piece of Graveyard Hate with your Living Wish. So that would definitely be something I consider as well. So if we just trimmed this Caracas and this Blast Zone, add one of these Endurances, add one of these Collector Roofs, I think that sideboard's already looking a little bit better. We can remove this Ramunap as well and get a little bit more stuff going on here if we want it. I think we could always just move this Ramunap to the sideboard and just give ourselves another Life in the Loam. So this is another possibility you could do and try and lean slightly more into the Life in the Loam. So we probably want another land that is going to be going to graveyard. So we could have another fetch land. So we can have 5 fetches and 1 and 6 things to fetch. So our Life in the Loam is going to be a little bit better in that respect and be popping off more likely. I think that would help us a little bit in this front. We've also got, let's move these to one side for now. So we've kind of got this little package of 4 cards here. I think we probably want to just go all in on either one. So if we're trying to do creature stuff, we probably just want the extra Reclaimers. Or if we're trying to do crop rotations, just have all the crop rotations. Alternatively, we could... I'm not saying... like the reason you play this deck is because you want to play the Living Wishes, right? I don't think it's a useful piece of advice to say, why don't we just like change this into a completely different deck, right? The whole idea is that you want to run the Living Wish. So I'm not going to sort of poo-poo that idea, but you could just run 4 more tutors from your deck and then just put in the other copies of the things you want to draw. So you just have your Hex Mages and things going on. I think that might be a little bit better. In terms of our removal as well, I think this suite here is kind of interesting. Like, we're not really going to be able to hang tough with our removal spells here. We've got 3 removal spells. Are we just supposed to ignore that as an option? And just kind of say, look, we're not really going to be removing stuff. Let's add a Maze of Ith in the deck instead of a Fatal Push, for example. So let's smash a Maze of Ith in there and just get rid of this Fatal Push. And if we want to have some removal, we should probably have catch-all removal like Assassin's Trophy. That's probably pretty reasonable. So we get rid of the Decay and the Fatal Push. So we've got a couple of pieces of catch-all removal there. Instead of like Fatal Push in it and Abrupt Decay, kind of splitting it a little bit. And I don't think that's necessarily that helpful when you don't have that much removal. You want all your removal if you've only got a little bit to be able to do what you need it to do. The quick reflexes, I kind of understand here. But if we want to play like a slower game with Living Wishes and Life from the Loams, these aren't necessary because we'll just kind of grind through the combo enough anyway. I don't think this deck has the room to play like the Entomb package that I really love in these sorts of Green Black Depths, like the Slow Depths builds. I think that's just a different deck, right? Instead of playing Living Wish, you're playing an Entomb build, and that's a different thing that you're definitely going to see on my channel at some point. But I think maybe we don't need the quick reflexes if we're just going to be trying to Life from the Loam a bunch. Now, this does protect our Witherbloom Apprentice, which is certainly something, right? Being able to protect the Witherbloom Apprentice when we're doing that combo. But that basically means that combo is going to be probably a 5-mana combo. I guess we can play it on turn 3 and hold up the quick reflexes and hope they only have 1 removal spell and then use that to protect it with our 1 mana. Then untap and Chain of Smog. That's certainly an option. But I think you kind of need to lean more heavily into a direction. Like, do we want to play the sort of the grindy Life from the Loam slower deck? If so, we're going to need the tools to help us survive that long. So, you know, the Maze of Ith is going to help here. Putting more Life from the Loams, putting more things that are good with Life from the Loams. So we go up to 5 fetch lands here, 6 fetchables. That's all going to be pretty useful. That's definitely a fine option that we can go for. Or if you do want to go more into like the turbo side of things, then maybe we should be running something like Mox Diamond so we can power this stuff out. Mox Diamond also pretty good with Life from the Loam as well, actually. So we could maybe run some of those. Obviously, as soon as we start adding things like Mox Diamonds into this deck, we are changing the monetary cost in paper of this deck substantially. I don't think this is a Tabernacle deck, so there is that going for us. I think the Hand Disruption suite here is fine. You can run Inquisition of Kozilek instead of Duress, but it depends what you're worried about. If you're worried about removal and things on your Witherbloom Apprentice or your Marit Lage, then the Duress makes sense here. It doesn't hit Brazen Borrower, which is one thing that makes the Inquisition quite useful, but I don't think that's the end of the world. But I think just these few changes I've made here is going to make the deck run a lot more smoothly. I think if you wanted to trim these for some Mox Diamonds, I think that would probably be quite useful. And just help us power things out, because what are we doing on turn 1 with this deck right now? Obviously, I have cut the expirations for this. But if, let's say, we run it like this, we've got 8 1-drops, which is okay. Like, I'm not counting crop rotations. We don't generally want to crop rotate on turn 1. We want to do it near the time when we're actually going off. We don't just want to throw our first land into a potential Dazeable crop rotation sort of thing. So we have 8 1-drops here, and some of these aren't really committing to the board. What I will say as well in this deck, if we're looking at Elvish Reclaimer versus crop rotation in this particular deck, because we have less copies of our combo in the deck, so we've only got 2 copies of Dark Depths, having more Elvish Reclaimer means that we have more repeatable tutors. Now, Reclaimer isn't as good as crop rotation as a tutor. Like, crop rotation is just like the gold standard of tutoring for a land, and everyone knows that. But what Elvish Reclaimer does do is we can activate it multiple times. So if we've got less copies of our combo, this is going to be able to assemble it on its own. So this plus lands will just win us the game. whereas crop rotation doesn't do that. And because we have less copies of our combo, the crop rotation becomes worse. So I think I've convinced myself that we want 4 Elvish Reclaimers in here instead. So we made a fair few changes here, as you can obviously see. And I think if you want to look at some more changes you can make, I think if you want to like keep the sort of the general gist of what we're doing here the same, I think these are the slots you can potentially mess with. Now, we weren't a great Life and Loam deck. I've tried to improve that, but maybe you don't want to be a Life and Loam deck. Maybe you just want to be kind of just having a decent selection of lands, and maybe you Living Wish for the Ramunap Excavator when you want to start playing lands in your graveyard. Maybe we aren't a Life and Loam deck. That's definitely a possibility, although I do like being able to Wasteland lock people a great deal, and it does just rebuy our combo. But you could definitely do something with these slots if you wanted to. Alternatively, these quick reflexes, if you don't want to play Mox Diamonds, you could make these into explorations. We now have 29 lands in the deck here. So that's a much higher density of mana, of lands to make the exploration better than what we were on before. And we've got more stuff to make the Life and the Loams better. So Life and the Loam gets better, which means that our explorations get better because we've got this card that we can actually cast and get some value from. So maybe a couple of explorations here. Let's try that. So yeah, this feels a little bit better now. I think we can still keep... It's a little bit closer, I think, to where the original deck list was as well in terms of what we have access to. And the approach we're doing, we just sort of cleaned it up in terms of what our deck's doing a little bit. And if we need to protect a Witherbloom Apprentice, we still have a Sylvan Safekeeper we can go and find. And we also have more land in our deck now, so Sylvan Safekeeper does become a better way of protecting our creatures too. And we've got more life from the Loam, and our life from the Loams are better, which means that the Sylvan Safekeeper is going to be better in that respect. So it's kind of, in some ways, it's gone a little bit closer to like Green White Depths. Obviously, we're not doing the same sort of stuff with Knight of the Reliquary, and we've got this combo finish of Witherbloom Apprentice too. But I think that's going to make quite a big difference here, as well as sharpening up some of the sideboard. I think if you want to make some other cuts here, if we've got the 3 life from the Loams, I don't believe we need the Ramunap Excavator. So this is another free slot that you could turn into, let's say, another Leyline or perhaps another Shoulder's Edict. I think that's probably fine, or another Force of Vigor. You've got some options of what that could be there. You might want a Surgical Extraction as another piece of graveyard hate, because we do have a pretty horrible matchup against the spell-based combo decks here. Like, I'm trying to address that with the Collector Roof a little bit. And if you wanted to try and improve that matchup, having some Mox Diamonds in the deck so that we have access to 2 mana on turn 1 more often, so we can then Living Wish on turn 1 into the Collector Roof more frequently, that would help if you want to improve that matchup. Alternatively, you can just say, I'm going to lose that matchup and that's fine. Or maybe I can cheese it with a turn 3 Collector Roof off of the turn 1 Thoughtseize or whatever as well. So, you know, there are definitely options to approach that matchup. But I think I've given quite a lengthy breakdown of this deck. As you know, if you watch my channel, I adore Black-Green Depth Strategies. It's, you know, my signature deck. I spend a lot of time writing different articles on my Patreon about it and playing on the channel a great deal. So when a nice build like this comes across, and obviously, like I said, it beat me a tournament at the weekend. So I was very interested to give it a go myself. I think there's some interesting stuff here, like the different angles. Like, I got absolutely bamboozled by... Like turn 1, the game 1 I played against them, she just played out the Marit combo and got me that way. And then game 2 was just Witherbloom, and I was just totally dumbfounded and not prepared for it, and kind of got absolutely smashed up by it. So I think the ability to have these differing plans is really interesting. I think sharpening this up a little bit with what I've done here makes some sense to me. And I hope the donor who submitted to see this deck is happy with how we've broken this down at the end. And if the lady who beat me playing this is watching this, I hope my thoughts on it are welcome. All right, that was a very, very long debrief, but I really enjoyed having a little breakdown of this one. I think the deck was quite fun. I think it had a few little issues that we've discussed. But that's, you know... That's one of the things when you build decks and stuff and you're trying something a little bit new, you're going to need a little bit of time to refine it and things. And as a devoted 2020 maker, you can obviously tell I got a lot of love and interest for this sort of deck. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. And with that, goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.